In 2002, a monthly short film festival called Channel 101 was created by film and television screenwriters Rob Schrab and Dan Harmon. Most of the shorts showcased consisted of less than 5-minute pilots for potential series to be expanded upon in future festivals. One of the series that had more than a few shorts produced was House of Cosby's, a satirical sitcom about a man named Mitchell who created a cloning device to make duplicates of his favorite celebrity, Bill Cosby. Despite it being one of the festival's most successful programs, they were hit with a cease and desist letter from producing any further episodes from Bill Cosby's lawyers due to the series' twisted tone. The creator of the series, Justin Roiland, would combine his frustrations with this by making another submission for the festival, this time a parody of the Back to the Future franchise, the real animated adventures of Doc and Marty. Like House of Cosby's, its raunchy tone caught the audience by surprise, but proved popular nevertheless, convincing Roiland to produce more shorts featuring the characters. After the festival's inception, co-founder Dan Harmon would go on to become the creator of the acclaimed sitcom Community, though after being fired near the end of the show's production, Harmon decided to pursue other projects, and in the meantime, Adult Swim had called him up wondering if he had any of his own ideas for an animated series. Harmon wasn't at all experienced in writing for animation, so he called up his old co-worker Justin to see if they could collaborate on something together. And the rest was history.
Rick and Morty, premiering Monday, December 2nd at 10:30 on Adult Swim.
Cover me! Oh, man!
Science makes sense. Family doesn't.
Oh, this is going to be such a fun!
I really don't need to go into detail on how much of a pop culture behemoth that Rick and Morty had become, running for multiple seasons, spawning merchandise, video games, and a weird anime that no one asked for. It has easily become Adult Swim's biggest program ever, and it's also become one of the internet's most exhausting talking points within the last 12 years. With the amount of experience Roiland had working in animation as a voice actor on shows like Adventure Time and Gravity Falls, and even having produced 3 animated pilots that were all rejected for getting greenlit into their own shows, Rick and Morty was the exact breakout hit Justin needed more than ever. And with its success, Roiland would subsequently go on to create and star in other successful cartoons like Solar Opposites and Koala Man, solidifying him as one of the most successful titans in the realm of television animation. But all of this came crashing down just a couple of years ago. In January 2023, it was reported that a few years earlier in 2020, that Roiland had been arrested for domestic abuse charges after an alleged incident with a woman he was dating at the time. Roiland defended himself from this, saying that it was entirely a lie made up by an embittered ex after he was bailed out of prison, but it's not exactly a good and trustworthy sign when you have the comments turned off on the post where you're claiming this. But it turns out this story was just the tip of the iceberg, and there were a lot more horror stories to uncover about this man. All articles and citations provided in the description. After the news first broke about Roiland's arrest, multiple stories regarding his past behavior towards his associates had fully emerged. Former Mad Magazine editor Ali Gortz, who was a longtime fan of his work and prepping a Rick and Morty concept album, posted a text message she received from Roiland several years earlier that read this. I'll just leave it at that because I don't think I need to elaborate any further. That very same week, plenty of other uncomfortable and alarming DMs he'd sent to former fans of Rick and Morty were brought into the spotlight and revealed the man's true colors. That very same week, a segment from a podcast he was on in 2011 had resurfaced, most infamously for a statement he made about teenage girls.
If I could go back and be a 4th grade kid right now with what I know, oh my god, I'd be like walking around, I'd be getting laid every fucking day.
Ew, gross.
And
in
it would be
4th grade.
And it would be legal too because I would be a little kid.
And he's been practicing on a 4th grader now, so he knows how to do it. Uh-huh.
No, she's 22.
She does have braces, though.
I love it. I love the braces. It's hot.
Okay. Says, anyways, she said she had a nice ass.
I'm not a pedophile, though, all right? Jesus Christ.
Didn't really want...
I'm not attracted to fucking little kid bodies. I like fucking women bodies. Look, I'll say, look, a fucking 14-year-old that looks like she's 18 and, like, big titties and a nice...
Yeah.
Like, of course I'm attracted to that.
Despite many of the Rick and Morty crew members being unaware of these incidents beforehand, they had already felt discomfort with his mere presence in the workplace on a constant basis. They mentioned he had paraded a porn star through the Rick and Morty writer's room, and openly discussed threesomes in front of them. He was involved in at least one instance of alleged sexual harassment during the show's 3rd season. notably its first with female writers. Even Roiland's own colleagues said he had zero creative input on the show as it went on, and most of its crew members hadn't even seen him in office despite it being for his show. After a strong first season, Justin began distancing himself from the writers during production on season 2. The creative direction began shifting towards Dan Harmon's writing and showrunning style of saying yes to fewer silly ideas, which didn't sit well with Justin. Most of the writers who had worked with Harmon on Community replaced most of the writing staff from the previous season that Roiland had a close connection with. So with them out of the picture, Justin found making the show to be a complete slog now. It reached a point where Justin stopped showing up to work or visiting anyone at the studio, and any time he would return would be for playing with Nerf guns or remote control cars that the crew bought on occasion. Tensions boiled between Harmon and Roiland after such a positive working relationship with one another that they brought in a mediator to try to patch things up. Despite being granted an extensive deal with Adult Swim to produce up to 10 seasons of Rick and Morty, the two were drifting apart, and things would never be the same again. Roiland's absence from production could also be seen in other shows he co-created or executive produced. He would occasionally do fan appearances or press releases for these shows he had little involvement in since their inception, mostly under the influence of alcohol, which caused him to bail on several of his scheduled interviews and appearances. Roiland was very active on his social media accounts where he enjoyed interacting with his own fans, including ones that were underage. At least 11 people have said they were sexually harassed by him in DMs, with screenshots provided, some of whom were only 16 years old at the time. The screenshots we have of the conversations show he would always reach out to them in a similar manner. He would apologize for sounding drunk or too creepy whenever he moved the conversations toward asking for sexual photos or to meet up. He would even allegedly message his victims asking how old they were, and the ones that said they were 16 years of age still received text messages from him for months and even years on end, even before they were 18. Two women that he texted when they were underage at the time shared that he would refer to them with derogatory terms such as jailbait, a term used to describe underage girls who men find attractive. "I bet you do good," he said to one of them. "Then once you turn 18, you just start cam whoring," which is a reference to women who do online sex work. Jana Waters, another underage person Justin texted when they were just 16, was offered by Roiland to meet him in his home state, and he even offered to pay for a round-trip flight to Los Angeles to stay with him. At first, I really thought this guy wanted to be my friend, and I really needed friends at the time. He was a grown man, and I was a teenage girl. Jana responded to his offer saying that they would love to, but couldn't because they weren't 18 yet. Both of them stayed in touch for a few years, and when Jana turned 20, Justin invited them to a party a few hours from their home in North Carolina. Despite being underage, Roiland encouraged them to drink. He invited two women to his place that he and Waters settled in, and asked Waters to kiss one of the guests. Waters felt uncomfortable and immediately drove home, realizing Roiland was trying to groom them into a sexual relationship. It took someone else pointing out that his behavior was creepy and inappropriate before I truly realized what I had been through. Since before day one, I was just another conquest to him. I think what hurts me most is the fact that he wasn't actually my friend. In another instance, Roiland started following and reaching out to an anonymous woman at age 19 in May 2016 after she tweeted about Rick and Morty. He said some flattering things about her in DMs, which is why they kept in touch. Justin targeting me made me feel like I was special and chosen. Even just being followed by him on Twitter made me feel special because I'd see my name next to accomplished artists and people. About a year later, Roiland invited her to visit him at his home in Los Angeles, offering to pay for her plane ticket. She agreed, but then suddenly the woman's father learned about the trip she was going to take, and FaceTimed Roiland himself asking what he was planning to do with her. Justin assured him she would be safe in his house. Despite this, the DMs between her and Roiland showed they had talked about sex before the FaceTime call, and she expressed interest back. She arrived at his house, where Roiland was hosting a party to preview the Season 3 premiere of Rick and Morty. After most people left, the woman took a dip in Roiland's hot tub with his female friend, who was one of the only people still there. When Justin was there, he asked both of them to perform oral sex on each other, which they agreed to despite how painful it was. Roiland even had sex with her afterwards when her female friend was still present. She later left that night, feeling distraught from what happened. Roiland kept trying to text her after she left that night, even after she fell asleep as late as 3 a.m. He even used the iPhone sticker function to attach a pornographic image of a man with several penises in his mouth to several of the messages. He sent the image 14 times in total. The very next day, she felt guilty about what happened the day before, and was scared that Roiland and his female friend that she had met prior were mad at her for what happened. He then pressured her into performing sex on him again, this time with him filming it. It took her a long time for her to realize that Roiland was taking advantage of her, and she only spoke to him on occasions from 2020 to 2022, before she saw new people and moved back into her regular life in Pennsylvania. Ever since Justin Roiland's contract was terminated by Adult Swim, Disney, and pretty much everywhere else, he has kept a low profile while distancing himself from the public eye and social media as a whole. He basically witnessed his public reputation and legacy shatter into a million pieces within the span of only a few days, and his iconic characters that he had voiced for up to 10 years were given over to a new set of voice actors instead. With the bad blood between him and the Rick and Morty crew, to his disgusting misconduct towards the show's fans, there's basically zero chance of him ever making a comeback after doubling down on its repugnant behavior. He took his success for granted and used it to manipulate people to satisfy himself and his ego, which many could compare to the infamous history of another animator who used their success and power to prey on younger women as well, John Kricfalusi. Despite how common it may seem to hear stories about weirdos in the animation industry, it's not fair to lump everyone in it as despicable predators like Roiland, because at the end of the day, the amount of terrible people working in animation really is no different than any other industry. It's debatable as to whether Roiland's continual absence from much of Rick and Morty is what caused its perceived decline in quality to begin with, and even if it was, the series would be much better off continuing without him. Even with co-creator Dan Harmon's own mistakes in the past, at least he's been able to own up to some of them, where Roiland failed to learn from anything he's ever done, it seems. It's hard to say how much longer Rick and Morty will continue for, but it seems it'll last a lot longer than Justin Roiland's career has.